Imagine we're sitting around a quiet fire where the world slows down and real conversations can happen. This is a space for healing, for awareness, and for reconnecting with the deeper wisdom that already lives within us. So wherever you're watching from, take a breath, settle in, and stay a while. Welcome to the Kristopher Lane Connection. I'm really glad you're here. Welcome back, friends. Come sit with me by the fire and let's get warm together. Today, I'd like to speak to the caregivers, the parents, the nurses, the techs, the first responders, the teachers, the adult children caring for aging parents, the friends who always answer the phone, the people who somehow became everyone else's safe place, and maybe the person who's forgotten how to be their own. If you've spent your life pouring into others, this conversation's for you. Sometimes compassionate people begin believing that love is somehow measured by how much they're willing to sacrifice, that exhaustion is proof of devotion, that suffering somehow makes their kindness more authentic. But what if we've misunderstood service completely? What if true service never asked us to disappear? For much of my life, I believed that putting everyone else first was the highest virtue. I honestly thought I was making a difference, making the world a better place. I wanted to be dependable, needed, useful. I became whatever version of myself everyone else seemed to need. Not because it brought me joy, but because somewhere deep inside, I believed that if I kept giving enough, people would keep me around. Looking back now, I realized I wasn't simply serving others. I was abandoning myself. I tolerated relationships that slowly eroded my self-worth. I accepted treatment I would encourage someone else to never accept. I worked my body into exhaustion just to make rent, believing my financial well-being mattered more than my physical well-being. And every time I ignored my own needs, I betrayed the one person I was responsible for protecting, myself. Many of us inherit ideas that sound beautiful on the surface. Always put others first. Deny yourself. Your needs can wait. There's wisdom in generosity. There's beauty in compassion. But generosity without balance eventually becomes depletion. Love without boundaries eventually becomes resentment. And service without self eventually becomes self-sacrifice. Service says, I have something beautiful to offer. Self-sacrifice says, I'll prioritize this over myself. One expands life and the other drains it. Nature never asks this of herself. There cannot always be spring. Trees bloom, they fruit, and then they release, and they rest. The oceans advance, and then they retreat. The moon waxes and wanes. The heart contracts, and then it relaxes. Everything alive moves in cycles. Everything. So why have we convinced ourselves that we alone should give endlessly without renewal? Why should we expect ourselves to bloom every season? As caregivers, we often live in a state of constant vigilance. We're anticipating needs before they're spoken, listening for alarms, monitoring changes, prepping for emergencies, holding space for everyone else's emotions. Our nervous systems have become incredibly skilled at scanning for danger. The problem is, the body doesn't always know when the emergency has ended. When stress becomes chronic, our entire baseline changes. Fight or flight slowly becomes our norm. Sometimes we become hyper-reactive. Everything feels urgent. Every interruption feels overwhelming. Sometimes the opposite happens. We go emotionally numb. We stop feeling excited. We stop laughing. We withdraw. Not because we don't care, but because our nervous system is trying to conserve what little energy remains. Burnout isn't weakness. It's biology. It's the body asking, when is it my turn to be cared for? One of the greatest lessons I've learned is this: boundaries are not walls, they're gardens. Walls keep love out, but a garden gives love space to grow. Every healthy no protects an even deeper yes. When we set boundaries, we aren't loving others less. We're creating the conditions to love them longer. Because the world doesn't need you to burn yourself out to prove your love. It needs a version of you that's healthy enough to keep showing up, to keep serving, to keep shining. There's a phrase we've all heard: you cannot pour from an empty cup. And it's true. But I'd like to go a step further. When you intentionally fill your own cup, something remarkable begins to happen. The energy you've been investing into yourself starts to become visible, almost measurable. You become lighter, more patient, more creative, more present. And just like gravity, fullness begins attracting fullness. Your presence changes. Eventually, your cup doesn't simply become full, it overflows. And that overflow naturally spills into your family, your work, your friendships, your community. Not because you're trying harder, but because abundance naturally shares itself. Ancient Hermetic philosophy teaches that the all is mind. Our inner world becomes the blueprint for our outer world. Balance within reflects balance without. Reality is shaped not only by what we do, but by the consciousness from which we do it. Another Hermetic principle reminds us that everything has poles: hot and cold, light and dark, giving and receiving. These are not opposites in conflict. They're different degrees of the same thing. Just as inhaling and exhaling are both breathing, giving and receiving are an exchange of energy. They're both expressions of love. One cannot exist without the other. If we only inhale, we suffocate. If we only exhale, we collapse. Biology asks us to do both. So receiving support isn't weakness, it's participation. It's allowing someone else the blessing of giving. Think about that. Every time you refuse help because you don't want to burden someone, you might also be denying someone the opportunity to express their own love. Giving and receiving complete one another. There's something I'd like to share, something heavy, something personal. I'll keep the details vague because this story isn't mine alone to tell. There was someone I once provided care for who I also cared for deeply. They were my friend. And one day I found myself in the middle of a crisis, an emergency. I did everything I could with everything that I could. And it still wasn't enough to change the outcome. They died in my arms. I've encountered death many times throughout my life and throughout my work, but this time was different. Because this time, the person I was responsible for was somebody I also loved. And in the days that followed, I noticed something happening inside of me. I couldn't sit still. I stayed constantly busy, cleaning, organizing, finding the next productive thing to do. It didn't seem to matter where I was or what was around me. I just needed to keep moving. At first, I thought it was just simply a coping mechanism. But eventually, I became quiet enough to ask myself, what am I actually running from? And that's when I was able to recognize it. It was a trauma response. Somewhere inside of me, I had begun carrying the belief that I hadn't done enough. That somehow I should have been able to protect this person from what happened. And because I couldn't, I tried to overcompensate. I poured even more of myself into everything around me. I think I was maybe trying to prove to myself that I was still useful, that I was still capable, that I was doing enough. And I almost burned myself out trying to carry something that was never mine to hold, to make up for something that was never my mistake. Eventually, I had to sit with something much harder, a much harder truth. I had done what I could, bravely. I showed up. I cared. I loved. I cried. And there are moments in life when our deepest efforts still can't change the outcome. But that doesn't make the effort meaningless. And an undesired outcome doesn't make the service we give meaningless either. And it certainly doesn't mean we failed. I had to learn that caring for someone else doesn't mean abandoning myself when things become difficult. In fact, if I'm going to continue serving people with integrity, I have a responsibility to care for the person doing the serving. Me. I am just as deserving of care as anyone I've ever cared for. And that realization changed something deep inside of me. Sometimes the most compassionate thing we can do isn't to give more. Sometimes it's to stop, to breathe, to grieve, to receive, to rest, and to return to ourselves. And I think that's a critical distinction for anyone who spends their life caring for other people. You are not exempt from the circle of care simply because you're the strong one, because you're the caring one. You belong inside that circle too. You are worthy. You are safe to let yourself be cared for. So if you've been giving too much and you're beginning to recognize burnout in yourself, please don't ignore it. Notice the signs, the endless exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, irritability, the emotional numbness, the headaches, the loss of joy. Reach out. Talk to someone you trust. Look for local caregiver support groups. There's plenty of online communities. There's counseling. There's respite care. And please, please accept the help when it's offered. You don't have to carry every burden alone. Even the strongest trees survive because they're part of a forest. Balance isn't simply work and life. Balance is your entire existence. Your health, your family, your finances, your dreams, your home, your spirituality, your rest, your play, your purpose. Every one of these is an instrument. And when we neglect one long enough, the whole orchestra begins to fall out of harmony. But when we gently tune each part, something extraordinary happens. Our lives become music. Not perfect, but deeply beautiful. A song that only we can play. And perhaps that's the greatest realization of all. Life is not happening to you. Life is happening through you. You're not merely reacting to existence, you're participating in its creation. Every loving boundary, every moment of rest, every nourishing meal, every deep breath, every act of self-respect changes the quality of the world you create. Not only for yourself, but for everyone whose life your life touches. So, if you've spent years believing that you had to earn your worth through exhaustion, please hear me. You never had to. You have always been worthy. Take the nap. Ask for help. Say no without an apology. Dream again. Laugh again. And play again. Because the people who truly love you don't need your exhaustion. They need your wholeness. Thank you for spending this time with me. And thank you for tuning in to the Kristopher Lane Connection. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and stay connected. I love you so much.